In November last year, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis won re-election by nearly 20 points. By January of this year, his national favorability numbers were looking really good for a state figure. According to the polling averages, about 45% Americans had a favorable view of the governor versus only 35% who held an unfavorable view of him. But it seems the more voters see of DeSantis, the less they like him. His hard-right campaign, bizarre crusade against Disney have alienated independent voters. His decision to run against Trump has made him an enemy of the MAGA crowd. Since he announced his campaign for the presidency late last month, DeSantis' national favorability ratings have cratered. As of today, approximately 48% of voters view him unfavorably versus just 36% who like him. And when it comes to Republican primary voters, things aren't looking much better. A new Quinnipiac poll has the governor losing to Trump by 30 points nationally. A brand new survey out of New Hampshire has DeSantis down by 32. David Jolly is a former Republican congressman from Florida, and he joins me now. David, I wanted to talk to you tonight because when we were in Miami, you and I spoke and we talked about DeSantis. And one of the things you said was, he does not wear well, basically, was what you said. And I thought about that commentary when I saw those numbers today. What do you make of them?
Yeah, one of the few candidates that announces and then his numbers fall. You typically don't see that for somebody that's such a strong candidate. Look, Ron DeSantis is a uniquely unlikable person. And as you get to know him, you discover it's this odd mix of vanity and paranoia and kind of the smartest person in the room complex. The problem is the moment then he demonstrates his intelligence, he says things that are antithetical to science and history and law and the Constitution. And it leaves people kind of scratching their head. I do think, though, if he has one thing going for him, Chris, is his political skill is he knows how to skate to where the puck's going, right? He was in front of the Tea Party wave. He was an early evangelist for Trumpism. And then as Trump lost, he had basically created this culture war movement in today's Republican politics. And so if there's one candidate still today that could figure out how to best Donald Trump on the former president's legal vulnerabilities, I do think it's Ron DeSantis. I think it could be fairly cagey. I'm looking to see some candidate, probably DeSantis, begin to call for a speedy trial and say, look, I think Donald Trump should be exonerated by a jury. Let's have a speedy trial so that this can be put to bed before the primary and let the president be vindicated. You don't have to say he's guilty. You could actually say you think he would be acquitted. I think that conversation has yet to emerge in Republican politics. DeSantis is the type of person that could actually lead that conversation.
That's all interesting and well said. I mean, one of the things that's notable here, and I always say this, right? Like when we were doing polling in 2015 of June, it was like Jeb Bush over Scott Walker, like all this, it's so early. and like, who knows? Maybe we have COVID 2023 in the fall and everything goes apart. So we don't know what the future brings. But the point, though, is that the favorability issue to me just speaks to like what he is trying to do right now, which it doesn't seem it's not clear to me what he is trying to do. Right? Like it's like you're not gaining with anyone right now. You're only losing people. So you've alienated Trump people, but that's sort of it. It's like I don't quite understand the strategy here.
Yeah, Chris, so a reminder, Ron DeSantis and I ran against each other for over a year for the U.S. Senate in 2016. In fact, I led him for over a year, and then Marco Rubio got back into the Senate race and pushed us both out. So I know his candidacy pretty well, his political character pretty well. He is an angry person, and that begins to come out. Just today in Florida, he vetoed the Senate projects of a state senator who had endorsed Donald Trump. Now, look, we all understand the give and take, and if you're not with me, maybe I'll veto your projects, but this is Republican on Republican crime, if you will. And Ron DeSantis needs friends, not enemies. He's losing the primary. He's not winning it. So this was a losing candidate flexing his strength, making one more enemy in Republican politics, and it speaks to his overall kind of angry caricature that he's created for himself in the GOP primary.
I want to ask you about this loyalty pledge situation. So you've got, there's this loyalty pledge. You got a pledge that you'll support the eventual nominee. This was born back in 2015, 2016 when they thought Trump would bolt. They all signed it. This is what Asa Hutchinson is saying. In light of Donald Trump's indictment for his handling of classified documents, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson's campaign on Wednesday requested a meeting with RNC officials about amending the loyalty pledge. During the brief call, RNC leaders declined to make any changes to debate requirements until the staffer committee is not dealing with hypotheticals on Trump's legal fate. One of the individuals with knowledge of the call described it as contentious. Apparently, Asa Hutchinson wanted to add a clause that you did not have to support the nominee if they were convicted of a felony. And RNC was having none of that. But again, like anytime you actually say it out loud, it reminds you of what a ludicrous situation the Republican Party is walking into right now.
A remarkable moment for the National Republican Party. I'm a little surprised, Chris, and I realize this requires an alliance of competitors, but this is an issue where all of the presidential candidates could actually agree with Asa Hutchinson. And this is where you could say, we actually think Donald Trump could be exonerated on the law. Let's have a trial. But at the end of the day, if he's convicted, it is not the right candidate for our party. Don't ask me to support him, right? I mean, look, what I'm looking for is that effect of it happens slowly and then all at once. At the first August primary debate, or at the first debate in August, do we see all the candidates actually have some type of similar statement, joint statement? We haven't seen it yet, and that's a condemnation for the candidate.
Finally, there's just to me the continuing fact that Donald Trump is not popular with voters. He's not getting more popular with voters the more he gets indicted. And when you look at these focus groups of Biden voters who disapprove of Joe Biden, the low-hanging fruit, the persuadable folks you want to aim at if you're a Republican Party, they can say whatever they want about Joe Biden. In the end, you say, what about Trump? They're like, absolutely not. And that, to me, is just the ground political fact that I just don't understand why more people in the Republican Party don't see.
Yeah, look, we're talking about Republican leaders in Washington and Republican voters. Donald Trump created a cultural movement and decided to park it in today's Republican Party. I think the biggest gamble of all is Donald Trump is hoping to land the actual trial after the early primary dates in February and March. The biggest gamble for the country is exactly the same, because if Donald Trump wins the GOP primary, the nation is likely saved another term of Donald Trump or a Republican-light Donald Trump because Joe Biden beats him.